new cases overnight. One was in hotel quarantine. We have no concerns. And the other person is a trainer from Queensland Corrective Services. So I know there have been some reports out there that he was working in the prisons. That is not correct. Commissioner Martin will talk to you further about that. He is a trainer, and we put in some precautions because he trained some recruits. So we have 17 active cases, so our total confirmed cases are 1,110. And over the last 24 hours, we've had 19,780 tests. So that's great news. So thank you very much for everyone who's gone and been tested. But it is now still really important, if you have any symptoms, to please go and get tested. Any symptoms, stay at home, go and get tested. Do not go to work if you are sick. It's really, really important that all Queenslanders follow that advice. So I just want to update everyone too that in relation to the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre, all the young people in that centre have been tested and all are negative. In relation to the staff at the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre, we are still awaiting just a few results. We hope to have those finalised by tomorrow. In relation to the trainer, and I can confirm that the trainer is from Forest Lake, that he actually trained 14 recruits and there are also 11 colleagues. Now, all of those people have been tested. They are in quarantine, self-isolation, and we are hoping to prioritise those tests as well. So as a precaution, some of our corrective services facilities have gone into lockdown, and Commissioner Martin will update you about these precautionary actions that we have taken because we want to keep everyone safe. So now I'll hand over to the Deputy Premier, and then we'll go to Dr Young and then Commissioner Martin. Thanks, Steve.
So those two cases that we're reporting today, one was a Cairns resident who had returned from Papua New Guinea. They were in quarantine and are not of a concern in terms of local infection. The new case, a trainer at the Corrections Academy at Wacol, as the Premier said, they have not been in prisons. They have been training correctional officers. 25 close contacts have been identified. They are being tested and are now in quarantine. QCS have taken a range of very appropriate steps to keep our prisons, our prisoners and prison officers safe. While we can't yet identify a clear link with the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre, this individual lives in Forest Lake, works in Wacol, both locations where other cases from the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre cluster are known to live and or work. We completed 19,780 tests in the last testing period, which is a fantastic result. It means over 2 days we tested more than 40,000 people, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. The Chief Health Officer in a moment will also provide further details, final details about that genome sequencing work that has been underway. Unfortunately, it's been not definitive in that the strain identified both with one of the women who returned from Melbourne as well as one of the first identified case at the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre, while they are the same strain, that is the strain that has been circulating widely in Victoria and New South Wales, and so unfortunately that doesn't provide evidence of a link. We'll have to continue searching.
So 2 new cases overnight. One was in quarantine and the other is a new case that we're investigating today, but already the close contacts of that new case are in quarantine. So that's all underway and happening. And as the Deputy Premier just said, I've received the final report about that genome sequencing, looking at one of those individuals who went down to Melbourne and comparing the virus strain they have with one of the first cases in the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre cluster. And although they match almost perfectly, there's only one very small change, one nucleotide change between the two, which suggests that they are linked. The only problem is that the particular virus, that particular strain, has shown very little mutation. So although that's almost an exact match, we've also found other cases elsewhere that have that exact same match. There just hasn't been any change in the virus, so we can't say definitively that those two cases are linked, but we can't say they're not. So that's where we'll have to leave that one. We're still looking to see whether through contact tracing work we can find any link between the two clusters. But either way, we now have 11 cases linked to the Brisbane Youth Detention Cluster. We have this 12th case that we'll now have to work through and see what linkage there is there. But remember, this person's 12th case lives in Forest Lake and works in Wacol, and we know we've had virus in both those locations. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, do you mind?
Thank you, Premier. Premier, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Peter Martin's my name. I'm the Commissioner of Queensland Corrective Services. I can report that we received advice late yesterday afternoon that a senior and experienced trainer at the QCS Academy at Wacol tested positive for COVID-19. Now, this particular trainer has not been working at a prison. This trainer, because of the protocols that we have in place at the Wacol QCS Academy, was tested on Friday last week, Friday the 21st of August, as part of our normal protocols with respect to temperature and health screening. The temperature checking was normal at that particular juncture. Later that afternoon, on Friday, that officer had a sore throat. He did the right thing. He absented himself from the workplace. Over the course of the latter part of the weekend, further developed symptoms, and he took himself off for testing as we would expect. The results that we received back indicated that he was positive late yesterday. That officer, I can confirm, has been in contact with 14 recruits at the academy and was also in the company of 11 of his colleagues. All of those people have been sent for testing. This has been accelerated by colleagues at Queensland Health and are all subject to isolation at the present time. Because of this, and having regard for the location of the QCS Academy to the Wacol site and other corrective services facilities, and the potentiality of the recruits to work in the centres early this week, what we've done is we've taken the very cautious step, in consort with the advice from Queensland Health, to move to stage 4, which is extreme isolation for the prisoners at Capricornia South. So from Capricornia to the correctional centres to all of the southeast Queensland corner, we've moved to stage 4, which is significantly limiting any unnecessary movement into the prisons or out of the prisons, and we're locking the prisons down, including all of the staff using PPE when engaging with the prison population. This is an extreme step, but an overly cautious step, and it's one absolutely consistent with the best advice from Queensland Health. We are doing everything that we can. Our protocols and our processes are really well developed, they're well practiced, and they've stood us incredibly well in this regard. And I'm optimistic and confident that we're doing everything that we can at the present time to appropriately isolate and test all of those people, both recruits and also colleague trainers at the academy, and also supporting the officer, as I said, that is doing the right thing. But any reports that this officer had previously worked at a correctional centre over the time of his infection is clearly not true. Thank you.
How long might the prisoners be locked?
That's difficult to say at this juncture. So stage 4 restrictions will be in place until the Chief Health Officer advises us that it's not required. Everything that we're doing in terms of acting in accordance with our planning is guided by the best scientific advice provided by Queensland Health. I'm sorry, say that again. No, they're not. What is happening currently is only those officers and only the prisoners that present as being symptomatic for COVID-19, flu or flu-like symptoms, or those that have come into contact with any officers that are suspect will be tested, but always with the best advice from Queensland Health.
What does lockdown actually mean? Does it mean that the inmates there are not able to leave their rooms? Does it mean that staff are not able to work across multiple facilities? What does it actually mean?
It actually means all of those things. So in short, what that means is that the prison will be locked down in terms of all but essential staff, that is Queensland Health and QCS staff, accessing the prison to do their important work. Clearly that will be allowed. Temperature checking and health screening will always be applied under those circumstances, and our staff in stage 4 will have to wear PPE, that is masks and what have you, when they access the prison population. It also means that there will be no social and personal visits, and also professional visits that would normally occur will not be allowed. And it also means that the prison population, the prisoners in those facilities, will be locked in their cells for a period of time to enable us to ensure that there isn't prisoner-to-prisoner transmission or prisoner-to-staff or staff-to-prisoner transmission.
So when you say professional visits, do you mean lawyers can't go and see their clients?
That's right. But what I can tell you is that any critical visits, particularly the important work of the courts, we're liaising at the present time with the judiciary. The judiciary have been incredibly helpful and wonderfully accommodating to us over this very, very difficult time. And wherever possible, we're helping the work of the court through virtual visits into the court process.
And how many prisons does that include?
That will include a number of prisons. So that will include all of the prisons in the greater southeast corner, including prisons at Woodford, north to Maryborough, and also Capricornia at the present time.
Having prisoners locked in cells always creates tensions. Are you prepared for instant reaction to that?
Yes, we are. It is the least preferable way that we would do our business, but we're incredibly alert to the fact that we are dealing with very, very difficult issues here. It's been reported a 1 in 100 year pandemic. The reality is that this is unprecedented. These are very, very difficult and troubling times, and our first priority is to the safety and security, but the safety of all of those people in our custody and our care, including our staffing group and including the prisoners, and including those that might choose to access the prisoners, including their family and friends.
What was the age and sex of the officer?
The officer is a male officer, approximately 60 years of age.
And how many prisoners are involved?
So there would be 9,000 prisoners currently in Queensland today, and notwithstanding that there are prisons that are out of scope currently, including Townsville and Lotus Glen, there would probably be, and I haven't tallied it up specifically, but somewhere in the order of about 7,000 or so prisoners.
And does that mean that you'll stop taking prisoners or inmates for the time being at the moment?
That's our preferred.
They have to be held in a watch house, for example? Or
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
they might have to be held in a watch house instead of going into a prison facility?
That would be our preferred course, and of course we're working very, very effectively with our colleagues in QPS. But the reality is that what would happen is that if we have a new entrant, a new prisoner that comes into a system that is at stage 4, then what we would do is isolate them from the general prison population for the 14-day period. But of course, under stage 4 restrictions, that wouldn't be applicable because everybody would be isolated from each other.
Oh, can we go to State Disaster Coordinator first? Is that right? Thank you.
Thanks, Premier. It's okay. Good morning. In the last 24 hours, we had 73 domestic flights come into Queensland. 3,170 passengers were processed. We refused 8 persons entry into the state. At our roads, we intercepted 3,740 vehicles and refused entry to 188 persons, and a total of 269 persons were placed into quarantine. With respect to the young people released from the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre, there remains only one to be located, and that person is within the Greater Brisbane area, and we will locate them shortly, so we're very confident of that. I'm pleased to say all have been cooperative, and the testing that needs to be done on them is progressing without any issues. With respect to our enforcement, in the last day we have issued 2 notices to appear for COVID-related issues. One related to a young person who decamped from a hospital when they were supposed to be in hotel quarantine. That occurred last week. They were quickly located, have been returned, and that we dealt with through the Brisbane Children's Court in September, that particular issue for a breach of the quarantine notice. Also yesterday, regrettably, we had to issue a 51-year-old male with a notice to appear because this person had travelled into Queensland from New South Wales, a hotspot, been refused entry on 3 times, but still got snuck through the border, and we were able to locate them And as I continually say to people, do not do this, please. Do not do this. We will track you down and we will take action against you. And if it's a serious breach such as that, you're not getting an on-the-spot fine. You're ending up before a magistrate in a court of law, which carries serious consequences. And I'll just finish off with saying, with respect to the investigation with the lady Pamela, we have issued one fine, on-the-spot fine at the moment. However, that investigation is ongoing and is not yet completed. Thank you. That will be something we'll allege before the courts. I don't have the exact details of that. What was clear that they were particularly persistent, did not take the appropriate advice, did not want to follow the rules. It's caused us significant resource usage to try and track them down. So that person now, because of the nature of that breach, has been put before the court.
Dr. Young, with this new case, so you said that he lives in the Forest Lake area and that he works at Waco. At the moment, though, is there any direct link? Like, for example, has he been in the youth detention facility with the known cases so far, or?
I know he hasn't been in the youth detention centre, but I don't know about those other links. We found this out late yesterday. It was just a positive that came through. So all that contact tracing work has started. We've immediately put all of his colleagues that he's worked with and those trainees that he's been involved with into quarantine, so that's already happened, and of course anyone who lives in the same household as him. So that work has been done. Now we need to go backwards and try and work out where he might have contracted it. Yes, we have had some other cases who live in Forest Lake. That's why I suspect, but I don't know at this stage, I suspect it'll be linked in some way to one of the other 11 cases that we've already got.
This man was tested on Friday, is that right?
I don't know exactly when he was tested. It was...
So obviously he had the weekend out and about. We'll be getting a list today or at some point.
Yeah, that's all the contact tracing, of course, that's happening now. But the most significant contacts, as we all know now, are before someone has symptoms. So remember that you're most infectious in the 24 hours before your first symptom and going back 3 days. So you've got more virus, the virus rapidly goes up, it peaks around half a day or so before the first symptom, 0.7 of a day to be exact, and then it steadily comes down. So the concern, this is why quarantine is absolutely rigid and essential, because if you don't quarantine people, then you're always going to have people out in the community for those 3 days before they have their first symptom and have no idea that they've got anything. So.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we're doing genome sequencing on all of them, yes, as long as we've got enough virus. You can't genome sequence if you don't have enough virus. So as long as there's enough virus, and I've been told for most of them there is, we will genome sequence all of them. But we won't get a different answer because there's one nucleotide difference, which is nothing. It's almost exactly the same. It's just the problem is there's lots of other samples out there that are exactly the same. And we know it's the most frequent lineage that's circulating in New South Wales and Victoria. So it won't give us any more information than we already have.
So highly likely we may not find out where this has come from.
That's true, yes.
I mean, your case department owners and
Yep.
getting a little bit concerned about security.
Yep. Yeah, look, so we've been having some regular meetings about that, and I hope to give you a definitive response tomorrow. So I want to talk to Tom Tate one more time, but also we're just working through some health advice at the moment and police. So tomorrow I'll give you definitive update.
And just on the lady Pamela,
Yes.
through all the people that are on board and hotel punishment, once that comes to an end, does Queensland have the power to keep them at the state? They're not residents?
I'll leave that for, there's a police investigation at the moment, so we have to just await the outcome of that. I don't want to jump on that. Yep.
But is it in the power of the state to be able to do
I'd have to find that out for you, Lydia. Yeah. Patrick, yes?
1,000 people caught in the first 2 weeks of these mobile detection cameras, including one person driving with their knees.
Driving with their knees.
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't be doing that, should they? That's pretty clear. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, sorry?
1,000 in a fortnight, it's a lot.
It's a lot, so everyone just needs to be doing the right thing. Please don't be stupid on the roads.
How big of a loss is it to this campaign this year, when you're not this campaign?
Oh, that's a matter for them.
But it's going to be a big loss.
That's a matter for them.
No.
No, I'm not concerned. No, I've got other things to deal with, frankly.
And what's your response to, I guess, the union's concerns that the government lacks an economic plan?
We've got a clear economic plan. I've been speaking about that at length. And as I said, you can't have an economy unless you've got a strong health response. That's why we are moving on the health response. We've got, as you can see, our rapid response is in full gear. These are the types of scenarios that we have planned and practiced for. And I do want to commend all the work of police, youth justice, corrective services that have put in place these strong COVID-safe plans. And in terms of the economy, we are absolutely focused on getting people jobs and getting them into work. And don't think for one moment that I don't know that people out there are hurting when they've lost their jobs. We're in the midst of a world pandemic, and we have to make sure that we find them secure work into the future. So jobs is absolutely central to everything my government works on. And don't think for a moment that I don't understand the dignity of work. I know that there are tough jobs out there that people go to each and every day, and they are absolutely vital. Every single job is vital to our economy.
And Premier, when will the government begin the next coronavirus fiscal review?
That's in September.
Do we know what plan?
I have to ask the Treasurer. I'll talk to him about it.
AFL making a decision this week.
Yes.
Could be as early as today.
Sorry?
Could be as early as today.
I haven't heard it's going to be today. I think some other states are putting forward their plans, is my understanding. But quite sure Queensland's put a very strong plan forward to the AFL. And like I said the other day, we've hosted, more than 40 games to date. I think it's going to be up to about 70. And, I think honestly, with our record on hosting world-class events like the Commonwealth Games, we're ready for this. We can do this to help Victoria out for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Can we just quickly ask you?
Okay, yeah.
You mentioned about the 50, for a 51-year-old. How are police hearing about these people that get across the border, these people, Queenslanders dogging them in?
Absolutely. People, I think the vast majority of Queenslanders have heard from us many times are doing the right thing. And, we get asked if we're frustrated and disappointed. I'm sure the community of Queensland's frustrated and disappointed when they see people want to game the system. We also get great cooperation from the media, so thank you for those of you that have assisted us with this. Look, we're all trying to work through this pandemic together. The whole purpose we do that is to remind everyone is to keep the virus out of this state. And those that want to do the right thing are putting us all at risk. So I thank all of those people that provide us that information. I'm not going to comment on that. It's under investigation. I'm obviously not doing the investigation, but I have great confidence in the officers that are doing that. They're working through that very deliberately. There remains a criminal investigation as well, and that may take some time to work through. Thank you.
Police Minister on the mobile cameras.
Yep, last question.
What are you, Patrick?
I don't think the government's published the location of this camera that's been trialled, but there's social media groups up there in other states, and certainly there's one for Queensland now, where this location is known. Is that against the law, or are you looking to sort of stop that in any way?
Well, it doesn't matter which road, which town, which suburb you're in, you've got to drive safely. You've got to follow the road rules, and you've got to appreciate that the police and law enforcement could be anywhere at any time. You have a responsibility when you're on the road to do the right thing. If you're speeding, if you're drink driving, if you're driving while distracted, you can expect that there will be a police response if you're caught. Well, we want to make sure that everyone knows the messages to drive safely on the roads. These camera detection devices, and in fact our police, can be anywhere at any time, and people have got to do the right thing. If you don't do the right thing, you'll be caught. Look, there's an investigation underway. That investigation is being conducted by the Ethical Standards Command and oversighted in the usual way by other agencies. Let's let it run its course. I think that was the last question. There you go. Blame Patrick. He had the last one.